And that's what it feels like to have money in the mail. What's going on, everybody? This is the Coverbandconfidential podcast, the podcast for cover band musicians and band leaders to learn how to rock more and suck less. Very weirdly intonated in my voicing tone. I'm Adam Johnson.
Are you? It's sounding fairly normal over here. I'm Dan Ray.
I was real up in my, my weird voice.
Presenter guy voice. Yeah.
Who are you?
Hi. Well, over here in Greensboro, North Carolina, sounding fine. I'm Dan Ray.
This is going great so far.
In my normal voice.
Yes, but not your normal mind.
Rarely.
Yes, very true. No, I just check came in the mail, and yeah, so money.
Love money.
I do love money. Money is great. How's it going?
You know, it's going good. It's going good. I've been talking for weeks and weeks and weeks and months and months and months about this 80s gig that in fact happened. Saturday night. It's Monday now. Boy, unpacking that's going to be our mission for this episode. So I'll have a lot to say, but yeah, overall, pretty darn great.
All right. Well, I have not had much going on in the world as far as like music goes. There's been lots of other things going on, prepping for this trip, and we've got our one kid going to Indianapolis for nationals, and my office is an absolute disaster because it's just been like overflow from gig after gig after gig, and now I just need to like clean it up.
Yeah.
And yeah, my to-do list has gotten extraordinarily long, but like I'm very much putting all of it off for the time being.
Yeah.
So that's fun. One of the things that I realized I needed to do after posting the cheap gear video last week is probably do a review on the Talman bass, because a lot of people are like, "What's the bass? Show us the bass." So that is currently in the works to get into. But yeah, that's pretty much it. We've had some cool stuff come down the pike. I had mentioned a product last week, and I actually had a meeting with the president of the company of that product today. And there's some really exciting potential things, and that's all I can talk about until some stuff has happened. So
yeah, but business
like,
stuff.
Yeah, people holding briefcases, shaking hands in lobbies. That's
business, big business
absolutely
stuff.
You know what else is big business is apparently last month. I found out today that last month was the like biggest month as far as like total listenership and viewership that we've had ever.
Woohoo!
I kind of like a lot.
Yeah.
You know, between all the podcast platforms and YouTube, we had just over 17,000 podcast looky-loos, I guess you could call it.
Amazing. We've been in the 7, 8, 9,000 a month range for all this year.
Yeah, well, you know, an outlier is a little over 10. That felt pretty good. So 17 is just a big bump. And a lot of that was YouTube, but we had a couple of really solid videos pop off. So that's a cool thing.
Gotta love it. Welcome to new folks. If new folks were brought in by that, then hi.
Welcome.
Yeah.
And you and I did not discuss this, but it's probably worth talking about just for a moment. But Quincy Jones passed away today.
Yeah.
Age of 91.
Legend. Yeah.
I feel like saying he's a legend is almost unfair to the word legend.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because dude lived like 1,000 lifetimes.
Oh, and defined the shape of pop music over the course of 4 decades.
Yeah, it's just like over and over and over.
Yeah.
And like everyone's like, "Oh yeah, mega producer," is like that's not fair either.
Nope. Although true, he produced Thriller.
Well, amongst
a bunch of other
things.
Yeah.
But you know, he was a composer. He scored films. I mean, he did. It's hard to encapsulate the sheer impact and just way that he molded the industry on so many fronts. It is truly hard to quantify.
Yeah. The way he shaped the pop music listener's ear, right? He defined what pop music sounded like. I'm not exaggerating.
I would argue he made listenership much more sophisticated.
Yeah.
He really put a lot of interesting things into what was typically considered kind of throwaway music.
Right.
And made it timeless. we could literally do an entire episode on just all of those things.
Yeah.
Because like if he did one of them, one of the things that he accomplished, he'd be,
Right.
in the Hall of Fame of whatever Hall of Fame there is. I mean, if he was just writing the Sanford and Sons theme, that would be enough.
Yeah.
If he had just written the theme that they used in Austin Powers, that would be enough. If he just did Off the Wall, that would be enough. Like just one thing on top of the other, and it didn't stop. He was
Yeah.
still cranking out new artists. Dirty Loops were under his umbrella, and you want to talk about challenging a pop listener's ear, like
Mm.
those guys do not hold back, and he was a big part of breaking them, past just YouTube. Really, the world is a less funky place without him here.
No question.
So raise a glass to Quincy
Very
and
much.
his family and all the lives that he touched. Here's to a real one.
Yep.
You know who else is a real one?
Who's that?
This week's review.
Oh, that is a real one.
Shameless. I don't know. That's like I felt like a Today Show. It's like the prime minister of some country passed away, and they're like, then they have to throw it to
And now there's a cat riding a lawnmower.
it's like they're cutting to like a chef who's about to make brownies or whatever. But that's what
but
we
who's
did.
not dead.
This week, Jesus. Anyway, this review is from Apple Podcasts, 5 stars. Username Stoneworks. They're in Australia. It says, Adam and Dan do a great job of keeping the podcast interesting without being too serious. You could say that again after that. There is some great information for cover band musicians with some really interesting insight regarding branding, structuring, and managing, and generally making sure your band runs smoothly and you're becoming more successful. I like the guests that they have along and have found it very worthwhile for my own band. Well done, guys. Big thanks to Stoneworks for the kind words.
Yes.
If you want to leave a strikingly accurate description of our show, you should leave a review like that.
Yeah, just like that.
Just like that. That's pretty much it. No more housekeeping, no other big news things. I'm ready to let you take over and just like walk us through this whole operation. So
the gig breakdown.
Paint a picture.
Listen, there are twists, there are turns. You will laugh, you will cry. There's a gear component that we need to get into. All right, for those of you who have not been tracking this, those of you who dropped in to this podcast for the first time this week because it's been a heavy week on YouTube and you just found us and here we are. I have been in a band that I front and band lead for 3-ish years called The New Strange. And it's a general purpose band. We do eclectic, but them tunes, kind of make it our own sort of feel for the covers we do. Mostly bar band, but with ambitions. So we got the idea sometime about around the beginning of this year to take the same folks and create a new brand. And partially inspired by my friend here, Adam, and partially because I am an 80s kid, we picked 80s as the theme, an 80s tribute as the theme. And I went hunting for names like I do. I went and looked at domain names that were available. And to my shock, the domain name biginthE80s.com was available. So clearly that was the name. So it's Big in the 80s.
Outrageous.
Is the name.
Like an outrageous opportunity.
Like, how can that be? I have to buy that right now. I was racing to buy it because I was sure somebody else was looking at it right now because I couldn't believe it was actually. So I do own the name biginthE80s.com, and that will be the name. It is the name of the band because it exists now. I then took several months off from working on the whole concept until it became clear that the date that I'd booked early in the year, I managed to book a date, November 2nd, which was this last Saturday. And then I put that on the calendar and didn't think about it for a few months till it came to where it was coming right up on us. And we've been working hard to get bass drums and me around the concept of playing to a click. We've all done it in the past, some more than others, but it's a skill you gotta learn. There's like some practice that it takes, and it did take some practice. We've been rehearsing twice a week for the last month on this, and working hard at home too. And it's been really interesting and really fulfilling. And when you really nail one, it's like, whew, that amazing. In the meantime, I've been stepping up the lighting game. So I have a Maestro DMX that has not been used on stage yet, but in rehearsal quite a lot. Used it with my Chauvet 4-bar in the rehearsal room and was pretty pleasantly surprised with what it put together. And then I picked up a 4-pack of 360 LED tubes from Both Lighting, BOTH, which are great, and a couple of cheap Chinese Amazon movers, and got those all plugged together with the Maestro and built a few presets with the Maestro and made. I got wireless MIDI connections on both my guitar, my Quad Cortex guitar pedal, and the Maestro, so that I could send them change commands from Band Helper. So when a new song starts, it tells the Maestro change presets, go to the next preset. So I got some movement in the preset world of that thing. It's not just the same preset going all the time. And I built a
Mhm.
stack of about 15 or 20 presets that are pretty significant changes between them, so it feels like things are happening. Works great on the movers. The movers are dancing in ways that are interesting and timed with the music. The pixels can the 360 tubes can do both sort of patterns up and down them and pixels across the grid of them. So sometimes they are interacting with each other in interesting ways, being driven by the Maestro. That part was really a success.
Yeah.
Worked really well, and it was wireless. Those tubes are both battery powered and have wireless DMX built in, so they're just super easy to stand up, turn on. They connect immediately. I was shocked when I just opened them up, turned them on, and Maestro was talking to them. I was like, thought I'd have to configure something. I told them I told them their addresses, and I set up their addresses in the Maestro, and it would just all worked. Let's see what else. Costumes. We're doing like dress for this. I have had off of Amazon white linen Miami Vice outfit suit with a pink T-shirt, and that's been great. We'll get to the rest of the band's outfits as we kind of tell the story of the gig. So this is all the prep work we've been doing. I've had this idea, again stolen from you, Adam, that of sort of stage boxes painted up like Rubik's cubes. Fully
Yep.
stealing the idea. We didn't get that done. That didn't happen for the show.
Well, but hold on. Let's not. We're not there yet. Let's talk about the things that have happened.
Okay,
So you've got a new system where you're playing to tracks. You've never done that before.
right,
You've got a system where you were using DMX to control a bunch of lights that you just got. You've never done that before.
correct.
You've set up MIDI commands to change multiple things in your lighting, your gear,
Yeah,
and
and
other things that you've never done that before.
including, by the way, automation tracks inside Band Helper that are changing presets on my Quad Cortex mid-song, changing. So I'm not touching it. I'm not kicking pedals anymore. The pedals are getting kicked for me over MIDI.
Right. So, you're staring at this giant, Matterhorn before you
Yeah,
with a bunch of stuff that you've literally never done before.
yeah, exactly.
Rubik's cubes are like the bottom, like the least
Those are
of your
like,
worries.
yeah, you lay them on the stage and you're done. Yeah,
Yeah.
that part would have been simple. I was consumed with all of the really complex stuff. Also, by the way, getting the tracks that I was building from scratch in almost all cases from karaoke version originals, getting those to where they were all the cues were good. Had enough time ahead of them, counted in properly, knowing the difference between when a cue just needed a verse 3 or a verse 3 coming up, 2 4 1 2 3 4, like when it needed that much count in, because some certainly do. The guitar solo in Power of Love is 2 8-bar sections and a 2-bar section.
Mhm.
Like, just feel that. It's not going to happen, right? So I had to build like big count in to get us back into the chorus that ends that sort of thing. A lot of iteration on the tracks, and then figuring out how to have the tracks live in the mix. I ended up in the mixer taking the click and cue channel and squashing it dead flat with the compressor and bringing up a bunch of makeup gain. And that finally made it pop right out in the mix. So we solved that. I was really having trouble with the cues not being clear enough in the mix, and we solved that with compression. Yeah, I mean, this has been the whole process. We're all headed toward this gig with like a lot of moving parts, and none of them tested in combat.
Yeah.
So day of shows at 7. Because of all of this uncertainty, all of these new pieces, I rock up to the place about 4:15.
Good
Just as
idea.
I got lights to set up.
Yep.
I'm gonna set up the cameras. I set up 3 of the Mevo cameras, which I haven't touched in a long time, had to
Yeah.
charge them, the night before. I gotta think about all this stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I wrote myself a checklist and checked it off as I went. Get there, get the PA set up, which is now second nature. Now, to back up a little bit, this was Saturday night. Thursday night, we played a Halloween gig at a bar downtown that we played before. We did that as the new Strange. It was not the new project. So, kind of entirely muscle memory gig. And my guy Justin, who is Taylor's husband, who roadies for us, I pay him like a band member, and he basically does the breakdown for me at the end of the night. When I don't have Taylor, I often don't have him for similar reasons. At this Saturday gig, they had a family thing, and neither of them could be there.
Mhm.
But he put some stuff away, not having done it in quite a while. He put some stuff away in weird places on Thursday night. So I get there on Saturday and some cables are not where I expect them. And
Ruh-roh.
so I'm like dealing with that. But I found my way around it. I had enough spares to get everything set up and good. I get the lights set up. They're going happy. That's all great. I get my guitar stuff set up, which again, I've done hundreds of times. It's all, fine. Get my vocal effects pedal and board set up, plug it into the Quad Cortex, get my wireless going, go to tune just to see that the signal's there and the Quad Cortex is not hearing things.
I'm sorry, do what?
It hears nothing. The pedal upstream of it, the Voice Live Pro, does. That tuner does respond to me, but the Quad Cortex does not respond in its tuner. And in fact, plugged into the PA, it makes no noise.
Huh.
Cable. I think cable. I've been using the same cable between the two of them forever. Swap out cables, no difference. Plug the output of into the PA straight into the Voice Live to take the Quad Cortex out. Plenty of sound. I hear it. Okay. Plug the PA back into the out, the PA input from the guitar back into the Quad Cortex and go straight from my guitar to the Quad Cortex. Nothing.
Hmm.
Quad Cortex is now not hearing input.
Wow.
And it was fine Thursday, and it's been fine for dozens and dozens and dozens of gigs. And so I sit down and poke at it, but I haven't had to poke at it in 8 months, 10
Yeah.
months. I don't actually remember how to use it. I just turn it on and plug it in and poke the pedals, right? It's a complex enough tool that I wish I had the manual. I don't, right? And so fortunately, this venue is about 4 minutes from my house. So I get in my car and I scream home and I grab my Helix LT
That's
and I
right,
go home
baby.
and I slap that down on the floor. Now, first of all, I'm cursing because this is now 35 to 40 minutes of my precious setup time that I won't get back,
Yep.
fussing around with this. And then I'm cursing because I did the last upgrade to the LT when there was a really big version change. And I did it in a way deliberately thinking, I'll get in there and use this new stuff to make myself new presets and stuff. I deliberately did it in a way that blew away old presets that I'd been using. So all I had was stock presets and a few sort of amp demo presets that I had preloaded. I found a way to organize them so I had a clean, a crunch, and a lead, and that was what I played with the whole night.
Okay.
Like all of my special presets I had for certain songs, none of them.
Gone.
I played Purple Rain on a plain, clean preset rather than the big washy, gorgeous one that I usually do it with. It made me so sad. We'll come back to talk about gear in a sec because we need to cover these bases. We head on into the first set. The first set we're opening for ourselves as the new Strange. We play a set that has no 80s in it at all. And I keep calling that out like, wow, is this weird? We usually do a lot of 80s music. Well, I think we're opening. Here's the thing, guys. We're opening for another band. They look a lot like us, but we're really proud to be here for them. And I hope you'll give them a good big welcome. They'll be here coming up and
Just yucking it up.
fairly normal set. Just play through it. It was fine. We get to the break and go change. I'm in my suit. And then Charlie, my drummer, is in like a black Adidas tracksuit with a gold chain. He's a black guy. It's like it was perfect. It was like straight out of Run DMC. It was gorgeous. And then Ben, my bassist, basically put on a white jacket over what he'd been wearing for the earlier things. It was a little low effort, but it was a change and it worked. But I walked out feeling very, very suave in my Miami Vice outfit. And we banged into the first song, which I'd built a 1 minute long intro track, a walk on track with a bunch of 80s sort of nostalgia audio snippets, and slammed into 1999's the first song we opened with. And by God, it all went pretty great considering I was limping on guitar tones. But that was the only real place that it was compromised. We did real well through a whole bunch of tunes. Do you ever are you guys so locked in at this point that you like never lose the click? You're just on it dead perfect the whole night long? or is it always a little bit of a little sloppy? Find your way back. Is what's your experience?
I have played live to a click for the past 15 years.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's not even a question. And I'm also the kind of person, like, my mix is, I would say, sparse.
Mm,
Really, what I have is me, more me, a little bit of everybody else, click and track. Like, that's it. I don't know how everybody else's mixes sound, but mine is very much like click is probably almost as loud as my vocals are.
yeah.
So,
Yeah, and I
um,
probably need to back that down. I think I'm working from some historical because I'm also driving front of house, right? So I have this feeling like I need to be fairly close to what the room is hearing, or else I don't trust it, which is nonsense. I mean, the room is set up fine and doing fine.
yeah,
It doesn't really need me monitoring it. So I need to experiment with that. We were awful close to the click all night, and there were places where it was clear we were like, come back. But yeah. The one train wreck we had was Message in a Bottle, which the track and the police are faster than we take that when we play it without a track.
yeah.
Not by a lot, but enough that like the track started and I was playing catch up already. We were 2 bars in and I was already like trying to get get up to where the track was. And but we found it and corrected it, and actually it was a ripper of a song. Um that was the one place I felt like we really fell apart. And the rest of it was very close. The tunes where I was able to set my guitar down and just be a singer were so joyful, so wonderful. It was Tainted Love, Things Will Always Get Better, and Thompson Twins, your Thompson Twins tune.
Hold me
Hold
now.
Me Now. Yeah. Yeah. I put those three together because they're the only three that didn't need me on guitar at any point in them. So I would just kind of vibe, and it was fantastic.
How did those go over with the
Well,
crowd?
well, I mean, I think every part of it went over well. I'm not sure I'll do Eyes Without a Face again. That was really, I don't know. People were kind of grooving to it, but it's a real energy change.
Yeah,
Um,
we had, when we were going through the set list breakdown, that was
that was
a
the one.
question
Yeah.
mark that we were
Yeah.
talking about.
Yeah.
But you
Yeah.
were
And as
also a little tentative on, things can only get better. You're like, I just don't know how it's gonna go over. Like, did people latch onto it before you got to the chorus?
No, but the moment I got to the chorus, they were right with me.
I
Whoa,
knew it.
whoa, whoa, totally,
Yep.
100%. And I didn't steal your joke about like, here's the part you know. Whoa,
Yeah.
whoa, whoa. Yeah, I thought about it, but so show ended. It was all fine. I was still mad about my guitar sounds, but we got through it good, and good feedback from the regulars who've seen me do everything and kind of appreciate the level of effort this took. Said they'd come back. Packing up took an hour and a half without Justin. It was just it was a lot.
Brutal.
Loading in this show and loading out this show is a lot. So, that's the mission here, is to do it at places where I'm getting paid for that.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
one wasn't, but this was a proof of concept, and as a proof of concept, it was a general success. So yeah, very happy. There's more work to be done coming up, and including some, to get Taylor in on some songs. We focused entirely on Guy songs because I knew I didn't have her for the show, so it'll be about getting some chick tunes stood up. But I think now that we have a sense of click play and I've got the click mix worked out, I think it's going to move pretty fast. So that's good. 2 post-show things to deal with. One is this Quad Cortex. So I sent email to their
Yeah.
support and I told them what happened, and they came back and said, "Hey, gosh, sorry. Were you using the factory power supply, and could you send us a video of it?" And the answer is, I'm not using a factory power supply. I'm using the power supply that I had custom built by Sweetfoot Pedals to exactly the spec of the factory power supply. So I don't think power was a problem. It's never been a problem before.
Yeah.
And I was running it through both the power conditioner in my rack and that Sweetfoot. So I don't think power was the problem, but I'll certainly experiment with it here at home. It's a good experiment. And then they asked me for a video of it happening. I'm gonna have to go get the pedal board that has that power supply on it from the storage unit, and it's gonna be a whole
Right.
thing to be able to do that.
What is the over under that it doesn't do it when you pick it up to make the video?
Here's the real over under: is if it doesn't, will I ever use it on stage again?
That's a great question.
I've been now looking at, all right, like, well, what if I didn't? What if I didn't? What if that was it for me in Quad Cortex? Because I
Yeah.
have had a love, hey, I hate's too strong. I've never had a love hate relationship with it, but I've had it. It hasn't been unalloyed love with it. It sounds great. It's really small and easy to carry around. It's really easy to program. The pace of firmware update has been much slower than promised. Although once they got there, they got there.
Yep.
Here's what I'm starting to think about. Like, I'm a guy who sets up a patch and then leaves it for 5 years probably. I'm
Yep.
not I'm not a fiddler. And what that means is products like the Line 6 Pod Go are built for me because that's not a fiddler's device. There's a lot less customization you can do with it, and that's actually probably good for me.
Yeah.
And crucially, there is a big community that has produced a big library of patches, many free, many paid, that I would love to have that in my pocket. Quad Cortex kind of has that, but the folks who make patches for it are very gear nerdy. So it's about like this is an emulation of this like very specific piece of gear, and I don't if I don't know what that gear is, I don't know what I'm going to use that patch for, right? But
Yeah.
if I can find a patch called Purple Rain, hot. I will take that. I'll experiment with that. If it's great, I'll use it, and that'll be my Purple Rain patch. If I can find a patch called Talking in Your Sleep, sweet. I'll use that, test it out, make sure I like it, but that'll be my Talking in Your Sleep patch. And I can use MIDI to switch among them now and not
Yep.
have to work too hard about it all. So that seems to me like a path that is both pretty low cost, a $500 box, and pretty much a fit for the kind of technician I really am, if I'm honest with myself.
I don't
Um,
know. So that feels to me like a not being fair to you kind of classification. I don't think there's anything wrong with using something just the way that it is and
yeah,
being happy with it.
yeah,
Like, I don't think that we are any more or less happy than the tone chasers that are swapping stuff out all the time. The HX ecosystem that I'm in, there's just been no reason to switch. Like, I've been using the same 5 patches for the past 3 years or so, and,
sure,
even when new stuff comes out, I don't futz with it terribly. I'll mess around like, "Oh, that's cool," and maybe I'll make a patch, but it probably isn't gonna hit the rotation unless I have a specific need for it.
yeah.
The other thing I was gonna say about that is that if you're on the fence or kind of thinking it over, I'd sit on it for at least a little bit because
Oh, I
we're
do.
we're
Yeah,
we're in November
yeah, for sure. Oh, yeah,
and
yeah. It's there. There'll be Black Friday coming up.
well, not even that. Like I'm saying look even further down the road because NAMM is in January.
Oh, well,
And
good
so
point.
maybe there's some newer, shinier, prettier thing down the pike.
Well, yeah, yeah. Now, listen, you know me. I made a spreadsheet, so I'm. It's not the only one I'm looking at as the Pod Go. I'm also looking at the new Boss GX10.
I
Um,
really wanna get my hands on one of those. I
Me
am
too.
very intrigued.
Me too. Now, here's what I like about it. It's very small. It's
Yep.
400 bucks. It's got a built-in expression like the Pod Go does. It has an optional add-on to make it do Bluetooth MIDI on board
Mhm.
without any accessories. I would need to get a WIDI, or there are things that adapt hardware MIDI to do wireless to
Yep.
talk to my iPad. But Boss has a card that you plug into the back of it that's a couple $100 more, obviously, but you can do that. So that's an interesting thing. I'm also looking at the HX Stomp XL.
Yep.
I don't know that the Stomp itself has enough pedals for me. It's ironic because when it first came out, we both were like, or I was like, "That's a stupid looking thing." But now that I look at it, it's like not so stupid looking. I like the switch count on it.
I
Um,
guess the question would be, like, if your ultimate plan is to MIDI automate everything, what do you need the extra buttons for?
well, fair question. Fair, yeah, totally fair.
Because
Um,
the DSP is the same, it's just more
right,
stompies.
right. Right, and then the other one I'm looking at is the Headrush Core because it's got all of that vocal stuff from Headrush Prime, including a harmonizer, which I use a lot,
Yep.
and it does not have an onboard expression. It's significantly larger than the other ones,
Oh, it's real
uh,
big.
but I'd be cutting out. It's not as big as the Prime. It's not as big as a Helix, a full size Helix. Way
Yep.
bigger than a Stomp,
But no voice live necessary.
but no voice line necessary. Exactly. So then I have to figure out a board to carry my power and my wireless and my page turner. one a solution becomes the next problem
Absolutely.
is what happens there. So it could be that Pod Go is the sweet spot of it all, and so I'm looking into that. It's a really good point though that there may very well be. I mean, Pod Go is a year old, right? Something
Yeah.
like that. So hard to think there'd be a replacement for that. Line 6 doesn't turn stuff over quite that fast.
They don't, but between what Kemper looks like what they're doing and what Neural looks like they're doing, I wouldn't be shocked if there's a new HX
Mm,
adjacent device that
yeah.
gets announced this year. You know,
Yeah,
the,
and if it is, and if it's in the HX line, then it's gonna be the, tweaker's paradise that I'm kind of starting to accept that I'm not. I'd like to stop pretending I'm gonna be, right? People look at the Pod Go from the Helix and HX world and say, "Oh, it's so limiting." I'm kinda like, "Yeah, limit me. Let's go." Because I don't, it's every patch has a number of slots that are already taken up with things like a wah model and an amp and a cabinet, and then 4 slots that you can fill, DSP providing,
yep,
if you've got the grunt for it, with your own stuff. And that, given a large number of banks and patches, plenty for me. Plenty.
sure.
What? Plenty. It'd be great to have an onboard expression pedal again. It's been a long time since I've had an expression on stage, and I loved it when I had one. So the point is, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm comparing and contrasting, and yeah, I probably should wait until after NAMM and see what's going to happen.
Yeah, the boss one is of those is probably the one that I'm the most morbidly curious of because the katana is a fantastic piece of gear.
Yeah,
All the sounds that I've heard come out of it are awesome. And the last floorboard that they put out looked like I mean I was like I'm sure it sounds great but it had no interface. It had that very basic kind of LCD kind of
yeah,
status
yeah,
indicator whereas this new one has, a big color touchscreen and it has a similar GUI to what the Quad Cortex and those other ones do and I think that's kind of the missing link out of the offerings because
yeah,
if if it does what the other ones do and it has an easy enough interface and it's, 100, $150 cheaper
right.
than, the next option, I think that's a pretty solid proposition.
Yeah, and it's similar to the HX and dissimilar to the Pod in that the patch building is very flexible and
Yeah,
not kind of locked in slot oriented like the Pod is.
sure.
So yeah, I think it's a very interesting looking thing. The ability to just plug Bluetooth MIDI on the back of it is exciting.
It's a
You
fun
can play
feature.
Bluetooth audio through it too, through that
Hmm.
same add-on. So um, maybe there's some use for that. I don't know. I don't think I have a use for it, but some people surely would. Anyway, this is now what I'm thinking about because the Quad Cortex may have failed me for the last time.
How is a Steinberger?
Awesome. Steinberg was awesome. It's to be fair, compared to the Reverend, its output's a little wimpy. I probably need to do like you and get it hot rodded and get some bigger pickups in there.
Yep,
But playing it's beautiful. Switching scales mid show is an interesting experience. Going from a full size to that very tiny thing. Yeah, I going back and forth. I lose track of where the seventh and ninth frets are really easily.
fair.
Start songs in the wrong keys, that kind of thing. But I kept it together. I didn't actually have any troubles about that on this show. So that was all good. So that's one of our post gig things. Second post gig thing is that woke up this yesterday morning, Saturday, Sunday, to news from my bassist that he is leaving us.
Okay.
Yeah, he's got medical stuff that he's dealing with that is impacting his manual dexterity, and
Ooh, okay.
he it's really not like he didn't want to get too deep into it on Slack, which I get, but he is parting ways with us now that we've gotten him to where he is.
Man. Yeah, I hate that.
So yeah, so I put out a bunch of messages on Bandmix and reaching out to people I know, and like I'd like to find the bassist who ends my bassist revolving door. That Taylor and Charlie and I've been together for 3 years now, and we've had 4 bassists in that time, and it's like I can't keep training bassists.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
But
So
listen, all the stuff that has happened up to this point has
fantastic.
equipped you
Yeah.
with the ability to fill that spot. If you're not able to fill that spot, you know how to build a track without you don't necessarily need a bass
It's
player.
very true. It's very true. And the other thing is I have songs in Band Helper now. Every one of my songs has the track version recording and the full song recording. So training up somebody on the material won't be that hard. Any bassist listening to this in the Triad area of North Carolina,
Hit him up
Coverbandconfidential at gmail.com. Please, 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 please.
or Dan@danray.net.
Or Dan at danray.net. Yeah, just hit me up.
Yeah, otherwise I'm forwarding stuff. It's a whole thing.
No, yeah, just come straight to Dan at danray.net.
Yeah, that's the ADHD, like, task avoidance in me. I just get this pile of, like, bass player
Well, I
inquiries, and
don't
it's
need
like I just can't bring myself to send them.
I don't need to put you in the middle. It's fine. Yeah.
Man, that sucks. Uh, y the way that you had mentioned it was like, oh, he changed and it was kind of a low effort thing. I was like, that feels like there's more to that story. And sure enough, there was,
Yeah.
but maybe
Yeah,
not for
and
the same reason that I
I
thought it
don't
would be.
know. I don't feel like his low effort was a function of like had a foot out the door. I think he was committed all the way through. He didn't like working from the tracks in Band Helper. It was like too much data coming at him, so he made his own versions of the charts with just in a document that he wrote, and uh, it was a lot of work. He put a lot of work into it, and I know he does a lot of a lot of hobbies that are very like he's a RC airplane guy, like, so to have his hands not be reliable is like it's heartbreaking all the way
Yeah.
around. So totally feel for the guy, and nothing I can do to help. I wish I could, but
Man, getting old sucks. I'm not a fan.
no question about it. Anyway, that's the story. That's the whole story. I now have a band, except for I need to replace the bassist. I have all the moving parts to it, except for the guitar pedal. There's like a lot of like really really great except
Yeah.
in this story. But if we lean into the really really great, there are some really big wins. We played very credibly to tracks. People, the audience did not notice us slipping on time when we did, and we got it back together fast. And the lights were a slam dunk. Just
Sweet.
plug them together. They did their thing. I didn't have to pay attention to it. Awesome.
Fantastic. Well,
Yep.
I know it's a huge weight off of your shoulders in and I know that it's kind of a rough turn of events to have they're like they take this big load off of your shoulders and then the bass player leaving is like, "And here's this
Yeah,
other
and then
one."
this, yeah. No, and while I'll be shopping for a new bass player, it's also true that we got the whole show recorded to stems. We got 3 static cameras and 1 moving camera of video, so I got a lot I can work with to build marketing stuff, which is what's next, right? It doesn't even have a Facebook page, doesn't have a website yet, doesn't have a logo that I'm happy with yet. So there's like a lot of marketing work to do, but I now have the raw materials to do a lot of it with. So
Awesome.
that's all really promising.
Honestly, I mean, if there is a time to lose a member, like the end of the year is probably the
Sure,
best time
sure.
because odds are, if a project is folding, it's going to fold at the end of the year. And, you may find yourself with a pool of folks that are looking for new opportunities. It may not be as rough of a transition as it may seem in the moment. And
Yeah,
I've
yeah,
replaced
and
enough people to know that it's,
yeah,
the
yeah, and while I've been focused on this, I've not been out selling. We actually don't have through the winter anything booked, so I got breathing room. It's okay. Now, breathing room is what caused me some trouble there toward the coming up on this thing, but I do have some time to work through the personnel problem and get myself resolved about it. It'll be fine.
cool beans, man. Well, I mean, it's the end of a saga. We've been along for the entire ride. It's good that you finished well. You made it over the finish line and
And I
you
am a
know, ma-
little bit like, even with the knock on sort of cleanup work that I'm left out of it, I am sort of like at a moment of, you finish something in a project and you're like, huh, it's like, what next? I don't know.
yeah,
A little bit down at the end of a project always. So, but it's just the beginning. We've just done a proof of concept. There's a lot more to get straightened out and figured out. And so work to do.
awesome, man.
Yeah.
Well, there's nowhere to go but up.
Darn right.
And I have nothing else to add because
Yeah, that's
this was not my episode. This was your episode. So
yeah, the Dancast.
absolutely. All right, folks, we'll just go ahead and wrap it up for this week. Thanks so much for tuning in. If you're a bass player in the Triad area, North Carolina,
Hit me up.
Dan at danray.net. Or shoot us a DM on socials. I will make sure it gets to the right people. But folks, thanks for tuning in. We couldn't do it without you, and we love each and every one of you, even you, sir.
Mm.
You know who you are, and you know what you did.
You
But
there
we,
wearing that.
yep. But we still think you're great. If you like to support the show, you can do some stuff. But we'll go ahead and call it for this week. In Atlanta, Georgia, I'm Adam Johnson.
In Greensboro, North Carolina, I'm Dan Ray.
You have been listening to the Coverband Confidential podcast for the week of November 8th, 2024.